All right, let's talk about parenting. We all want to give our kids the best possible start in life, right? And it's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking more is better. More classes, more skills, more activities. But what if that very instinct, which really comes from a good place, is actually holding them back? Today, we're going to dig into a source that totally challenges the way we think about childhood learning.
This is the question that probably keeps a lot of parents up at night. We all want to do what's best, but this explainer is really asking us to just take a breath and really think about what best actually looks like.
So, does a schedule like this look familiar? Maybe a little too familiar? We've got English tuition, music, abacus class, social studies prep. I mean, for a kid in fourth grade, this isn't even an exaggeration for some families. It's just a Tuesday. What we're looking at is a calendar that's absolutely jam-packed with good intentions. But is it building a foundation for success or something else? And this is where we get to the heart of the problem, the real parent's dilemma. You're putting in all the time, all the money, all the effort, because you truly believe it's the right thing to do. The source material we're looking at today, though, it has a pretty challenging take on that. And this is the really tough pill to swallow. The source basically asks, what if all this help is actually harming your child? It suggests that this constant pressure, this nonstop schedule, might not just be useless. It could be actively damaging. It kind of reframes the whole thing, not as support, but almost as a kind of torture for a young, developing mind. The metaphor the source uses is, wow, it's powerful. Force feeding. Think about that. It just perfectly captures this idea of cramming information into a child without thinking for a second about their own curiosity, their own appetite for knowledge. You can force the rice in, sure, but you can't force them to be nourished by it. Okay, so let's break this down, because it really shows the two different paths you can take. The whole force-feeding thing, it leads to stress, resistance, and ultimately, the source says, mediocrity. But a more nourishing approach, one that actually follows the child's lead, well, that builds curiosity, real interest, and that's what paves the way for genuine success. So, okay, if packing the schedule is the problem, then what's the solution, right? How do we switch from force feeding to actually nourishing? Well, to answer that, we kind of have to hit the reset button on what we think learning even is. And here is the absolute key, the big mind shift we need to make. Learning, it's not a data transfer. You're not just uploading files to your kid's brain like it's a computer. It's a behavioral process. It's about playing and exploring and discovering things for themselves. It's something a child does, not something that is done to them. And that small shift in thinking is everything. So what can you actually do? Well, it's probably way simpler than you're thinking. The source says just let them play. Really play. Take them outdoors, go on hikes, little trips. And here's the most important part. Just watch them. Observe. What grabs their attention? What do they keep coming back to over and over again? That is the tiny seed of genuine interest. Your job isn't to plant 1,000 different seeds. It's to notice the one that's already starting to sprout and then just gently help it grow. Okay, this is all great philosophy, but what about a simple rule, something you can actually follow? Well, the source gives us one, a really clear, maybe even controversial piece of advice to guide you through those really formative years. Think of this rule as the one thing to hold on to when all that social pressure starts building up. When you hear what other parents are doing, if you just remember this one thing, the source says you'll be on the right track. And that number is 8. Yep, 8. This is the magic number, the dividing line according to this source. The argument is that every single year before this point should be all about building that natural foundation of curiosity we were just talking about. And there it is, plain and simple. The rule is, ensure no tuition till grade 8. That's it. This isn't about neglecting your child's education, not at all. It's about protecting their love of learning. It's about giving a kid the space and the time to build their own internal engine for discovery, before we start trying to bolt on external boosters. So what happens after grade 8? Does the tuition fest just begin then? Well, yeah, tuition becomes an option, but the approach completely changes. First, it should only be if the child actually wants to do it, and the focus moves to figuring out their real, natural strengths and then helping them connect those talents with opportunities in the world. See the difference? It's about building on something that's already there, not trying to build from scratch. So, the big idea here is that by taking this approach, by resisting that urge to overschedule and micromanage everything, you're not just raising a happier kid, you're actually setting them on a path to a much greater, more authentic kind of success. And this really brings us to the final and maybe most powerful warning from the source, because the stakes, they are incredibly high. These social norms, the constant tuition, the packed schedules, they come from a good place, but they might be the very things that steer a child with incredible, unique potential toward a future of just being average.
So let's wrap this up with a question for you. A challenge, really. It's not about ditching every single plan, but it is about being intentional. It's about looking at the things we do just because they're normal and asking why. So what's one norm, one activity on your schedule that you're now ready to look at with fresh eyes?